once again to the next episode of the No Dam's Given podcast. Glad to be here today. Mr. Russell Gray.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So a couple of announcements. Really awesome. We're opening in Savannah in the next 2 weeks. And so we're excited about that. Just to explain to folks who don't know, when you sign with a distributor, you sign generally in certain districts. If you want to, in the state of Georgia, you can sign with any different or a different distributor in any county. And so we elected to go with United for the whole state. But we've only been distributing in our region south of Atlanta and west of I-75. And so this will be the first time we're getting out of that. December the 8th, I think next week, next Wednesday we'll be over there. So
branching out.
So excited about that, yeah. So got a little football game this weekend.
No, Tech's not playing, right?
That was an awesome post.
That was a career-ending loss for Paul, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. Well, now, how many coaches has Kirby retired now?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Well, that's his third at least.
Yeah.
Tennessee?
Yeah.
Butch is actually on the rehab plan.
That's true.
He's over there with Saban.
The Alabama rehab plan.
Yeah, well, what do you think of Hugh Freeze going as offensive coordinator at Alabama, you know? It could happen.
It could happen. That's
yeah.
Really?
The offensive coordinator, I believe, or one of the assistants is looking to bail on Alabama, so there's an opening, and I think his name was thrown around.
That's amazing. Wow. So the dogs are +10. I'm not sure. Alabama's so daggone good this year. If their quarterback's on, his knee's not hurt. Do we have a chance?
There's always a chance.
Yeah.
We've got the team to do it.
Yeah.
It's mistake-free assignment football. It's reduction of penalties. Can't have stupid emotional penalties. And we've got to be flexible. So if they do expose a vulnerability, which they will find, we've got to be quick to adjust to it and keep them guessing.
Yeah. The one thing, I think the dogs have gotten better every game they've played this year. I think they've gotten better progressively throughout the season.
Except LSU.
Yeah. Well,
they're actually
playing
part of the first half now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
They've decided that it wasn't good to forfeit that.
Students are showing up before halftime. That's a good call.
That's a good call. So I guess we'll see about that. I won't be going. I didn't get tickets. I got tickets last year. I've had season tickets for, ever since we got out of college. And, slowly, progressively built up points. But I assume, I don't know what the difference was this year and last year. Maybe we've got more interest, or maybe the stadium gave out less tickets. Although I will say that last year for the SEC championship game, we were I must have been the very last one, because we were at the very top, actually above the Jumbotron.
Wow. Did you just stroll down the catwalk to go use the bathroom?
Well, we actually could have peed over the back because there was nobody behind us. So, but no, we didn't. But they were a long ways down, and you couldn't even. You were above the Jumbotron, so it was kind of, yeah. Anyway, there is a bad seat in Mercedes Stadium, and it is at the very top.
The University of Georgia would love to have more of your money. Maybe you could get a few rows up.
Yeah. All right. Well, what beers are y'all drinking today?
It looks like Sholey and a little bit of Farmhouse Berry, the new Farmhouse Berry.
What you got?
I'm on the Sholey. It's a Sholey Friday here at the brewery. I like it. I'm an IPA fan, and you make a good product, so I'll stick with it.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's IPA Friday. We're trying to promote it, to get as many and as large a sale in before before our 1 year anniversary, so we can give a little bigger check to the river keepers, the Flint River keepers. 2% of the sales of Shoaley go to promote that cause. So we're excited about that. Hopefully, everybody this weekend will drink a lot of Shoaley, and we can write them a bigger check.
I think Shoaley will give the dogs a little extra tackling power. By Shoaley.
Definitely. I'm actually drinking Sky Water today, taking it a little bit lighter. Check out here, buddy.
It's my staple. It's Shoaley.
Nice. You know, it's funny to me. I think Shoaley's gotten better over the year.
I think so too. I definitely have sampled enough of it to note the small changes in its complexity.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. I think we didn't know what the tastes were going to be when the first few runs sort of knew, and then everything's been tweaked. And it, you brew beer every 21 days or so. So we're through our 10th or 11th iteration, whatever the math comes out to be, and I think it's gotten better each time. And so at the end of the year, it's not that it was ever bad, but at the end of the year, I think the finish is a little smoother. The hop, the aroma is nice. It's definitely coming off with a better. We're getting more barrelage out of each batch, so the efficiency is getting better.
So if the last time you rated Shoaley on Untapped was 9-10 months ago, go back on there
and rate it again. That's awesome.
Or even Yelp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no doubt. Go down and rate the brewery. All right, Russ. Tell us, Russ or Russ. I always call you Russ. Russell.
It's okay.
Either one?
Yeah.
Russ?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you ran for an office.
I did. And I actually won. It's the only race I've ever won.
Yeah. So why?
Why not?
No, good question.
Yeah. People like you kind of give me an earful about, being a little bit involved in the community, more behind the scenes early on. And I'm an observer of people's style and behaviors and tones as well. And just kind of fell into it through, organizing neighborhood watches and getting organized with some of the county and city officials, and really kind of looking a little deeper into what's going on in the community. At some point, there's only so much you can do behind a keyboard or grassroots. The opportunity is there. And really when nobody else is running, it kind of becomes almost a glaring sign from above to say, here's your chance. We're giving you the best opportunity in the world to step into this opportunity and see where you can take this and see if you can do the same good on a larger scale.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've talked a lot about promoting downtown and promoting Albany, and one of the things that as a business and me personally and through all of the things that we're doing is to try to promote personal responsibility and get people involved in our community and get people involved in the voting process, the political process. It's coincidental that this year is the 50th anniversary of a book, The Gulag Archipelago. And the reason that's important is because the one thing that book showed was that if you want your society to not do well, then don't care about it.
Amen.
Then you take you don't take, the only way to prevent disasters is to take personal responsibility, that we all have a little bit, that we all have something, a little bit of responsibility in that. So it's up to all of us to either be committed to our area or committed to the local communities to make sure that those things happen. So what's been the hardest part about that? Winning?
So far, it's just really wrapping your mind around where things have been, trying to truly understand where we are today and understand where as an individual I can affect change, where I can drive alignment and share a vision with others, whether it be between commissioners on the county commission, county city officials, or just as government to public. I think if we don't have a vision as a government, it's hard for us to truly be held accountable to executing on that vision, but it also has to be in line with the vision that the public sees. And if we serve the public, so really it's listening to what the community needs, helping them understand that a lot of these asks are very specific and in some cases selfish, and that it's about the greater good, and a rising tide lifts all boats. So one district may want resources that may not be the best time considering the needs of the greater good. How can we solve for the big problems, do the basics well, and grow from there, and at the same time not give up the uniqueness that we have here in Albany and the identity that we've had. Some of the identity we need to shed ourselves of and grow into a new identity, and I think we're in the process of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into that a little bit. So what does the county have? We've talked a bit about the city not having a very good 3 to 5 year plan, and having not been focused over the past few years, and then that leading to not knowing what to do with resources, and resources getting allocated poorly. Does the county have a what you would say is a good 3 to 5 year plan on where it would like to see us go, or a vision?
There is a number of years back, the Albany-Darty 2026 master plan was put out. That was a joint venture between the city, the county, and external consultants that came in and really drove a collaborative vision for zoning and land use and development and community needs assessments, et cetera. That has been the roadmap out there. Now, no, there's no secret war room in the county offices that has a graduated chart or timeline of when things need to be accomplished by, which is something I'd like to see, just so I can stay on task and keep the momentum pushing toward those achievable benchmarks. Helps me focus. You get a little ADD and you can go anywhere. But right now, I don't think we're at a point where that is, there's not a family photo sitting on the wall and a picture of Disney next to it, knowing that, here's our goal is to get to Disney. There's inner workings and intergovernmental agreements between the city and county. We share some things, we fight over other things. That just needs to kind of go away, and everybody needs to know their role and put it behind them. And let's look at what the next 3 to 5 years should look like and figure out how we move toward that and strip the rest of this stuff away.
Does that 3 to 5 year plan include interaction between the city and the county, looking at fixing those and re-updating those lift stations for the sewer system?
Yeah, it does.
The estimates were kind of expensive, and I'm guessing that it's going to require some type of federal assistance of some sort.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for the city. One of the early things I've learned being on the county side is there are fundamental responsibilities of the county as an agency. It is a constitutional body. It's required by the Constitution of Georgia. The city commission is developed by charter. It's a voluntary organization that is created inside the county. So Georgia Constitution requires that we have a county commission, that we have a county manager, that we hold and oversee elections, collect taxes, etc. The city has their own chartered responsibilities for the citizens in their footprint. The municipal water, the sewer system, et cetera, falls under the city for the most part. Now, your drainage ditches and your flood remediation stuff, that falls on the county. That's a county maintained set of projects. And we both have responsibility for roads, et cetera. It's my understanding that, yes, there is an opportunity there's a huge need to redo some of the sewer system, especially in the downtown area. The lift stations are a big part of that. I think with the storms that happened earlier this year, the coincidental failures of the lift stations due to pumps not being in place, not having the redundancies, and failure of some of the high-level alarms caused some of the problems that we had with sewer leakage and dumping into the Flint. Certainly disturbing from both an environmental and a municipal perspective.
But you look at it, we basically have an 1860s sewer system hooked up to a 1900s sewer system hooked up to a 2000 sewer system, and we've gotten into the woods or into the weeds a little bit with this on the podcast before. They really didn't even. They stopped dumping raw sewage just directly into the river in the 1970s because of the EPA Act, Environmental Protection Agency Act. And so before that, everything, probably not everything, probably stuff on the other side of town didn't, but a lot went directly into it. And then they started, and then they have the two issues, which is one is the combined sewer and drainage system, and then the other one is the lift system, and then the capacity of the treatment plant. And so yeah, that's a mess. And I don't envy any of them. I think it's such a mess that probably is what's going to end up happening is to for anything to happen at it. One of the agencies that has a dog in the fight is going to end up suing the city, just like what happened in Atlanta, and forcing them to move forward with dealing with the problem. Because there's no telling, nobody's even talked about this because there's so much other disaster, but there's no telling how much sewage was dumped in with the hurricane. And I mean, not that there's some disasters that you just can't plan for, and there's always going to be that type of disaster, but nobody's really talked about the fact that for several days that was an issue on top of what had happened before.
Yeah, and I think nature's perfect. Humanity screws it up. We're our own worst enemy when it comes to environmental protection, because of convenience, because of laziness, because of apathy. We don't think about it. You talk to folks who manage sewers and they'll tell you, between feminine products and diapers being flushed down, I don't know how you get a diaper down. I honestly don't, but it happens a lot. And there's also peak times, in the morning, more people are taking showers, flushing the toilet, using water. There's more water coming into the gray water system that goes into your storm sewer. And, it compounds. So if you've got a rain event happening at the same time, it's like a traffic jam. And, whatever's coming down in the gray water system is going directly into the river because it's overflowing. And truly, it's that solid material that the pumps can't handle. That's what jams it up. Pumps can handle water pretty easily. And at the same time, Mother Nature's pretty good about filtering runoff. We have a karst ecosystem here, so it flows down through our limestone sponge and does a great job at purifying water before it gets to the aquifer. Not that we want to put wastewater on top of that, but even things like pharmaceuticals. So many people flush and pour medicine, antibiotics, antidepressants. Lord knows, I think we could all use a little more Prozac in our water. But you think about the things.
Sir actually tried to make that happen.
I would not.
It was right up there with fluoride. Fluoride won, but Pfizer tried to get that. Ooh, I'm going to get in trouble. So, just kidding.
Well, I wonder, when there used to be
anything comedic is supposed to be okay.
Anything Eric laughs at is okay. I wonder if some of these problems in Albany and Dougherty County didn't start until after a large pharmaceutical manufacturer left our area and quit dumping into the river.
People started getting a little sicker.
Or crazier.
I know that my 1.25 low flow efficient flushing toilet isn't capable of getting a diaper down now, I'm pretty sure. I know I probably handle a couple Prozacs, I guess.
Yeah, Prozac. A few tin cans, a lot of heavy metals. Heavy metals are easy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just go ahead and get those in. A lot of lead paint.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you,
it's awesome, all the good stuff we've got in there, and organophosphates. So back in the day, and I think it's better now than when I was a kid. We do canoeing trips or just float down the river, and huge soap bubbles, soap suds, which is just phosphorylated fatty acids. So the organophosphates that they're spraying on the crops are mixed in with material matter in the river and forming soap and saponifying. And so you got huge, and as a kid I know it's like why they got soap in the river? Like, oh man, that's awesome. There's just like natural soap growing. Like, no, that's really bad, guys.
Makes turtles easier to find.
Those turtles were floating down the river coming from Albany.
Yeah.
So.
But here's an environmental tie to you. I know the story behind Shoalie. It's an awesome one. Shoal bass is a great resource, and it's really a native to the Flint River and a very special resource. But the striped bass is another resource, and so the striped bass has a life cycle of going into the ocean to spawn and then coming back upstream similar to salmon and trout. When there was a chemical company, a pharmaceutical company along the Flint, thermal pollution became a very big challenge because so much hot water was discharged into the Flint that the striped bass could not swim from spring to spring to cool water to get up enough to complete their life cycle. And so it became very prohibitive. And at one time I was told that you couldn't find striped bass upstream of that pharmaceutical company. And since it's gone, it's been they've progressed up, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
how do you know so much about nature?
I watch the Nature Channel. Marlon Perkins. No, I actually made a career out of a hobby trip. I've always been enamored with nature. I've been an avid hunter and an observer of the outdoors, and my degree is actually in wildlife ecology and management, and from the University of Georgia. So I worked at the Jones Ecological Research Center for 2 years after I graduated, doing all kinds of really cool environmental research.
Itchaway, Notchaway.
Yeah, it's just Itchaway Plantation.
Just Itchaway. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, did I say it wrong? It's not Itchaway, Notchaway Creek.
The Itchaway, Notchaway Creek runs through Itchaway Plantation, which is the Jones Ecological Research Center.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, so if you grew up at least in Mitchell County, we everything down there is Joseph W. Jones, dedicated to this or that. I think our educational lab that was at Westwood was the Joseph W. Jones educational lab donated by Coca-Cola. So back in the good old days. So so that's awesome. We that was always every once in a while. I think a couple of times with the Boy Scouts, we got to go down each way, notch way, because I guess they own both sides of the river. So pretty much that creek is shut off to most people.
And because, technically you couldn't get a goat or a bale of cotton past that first set of shoals, there was a huge legal battle. Anyway, the big money won, and a lot of the locals were really mad, and they chained off the.
I don't think they tried very hard to get that sheep. I would
Was
love
it a goat?
to.
It wasn't a goat.
Yeah.
It was a goat.
It was a goat?
Yeah, seven goats died in the attempt. Yeah, they had a hell of a barbecue afterwards.
Where was PETA there?
They were eating tasty animals.
I remember back in the day, because that was when I was in high school. There were some protest paddles. To go down and put in up above, and then protest down, and everybody get arrested. I never participated in one of those.
With your clothes off.
I did not figure that much at the time, but
Yeah, that's not.
But yeah. So what was your research on? Or I assume, or were you just helping with other people?
Yeah, I was a research technician, so it was either go back and get a PhD and get my own grants to do my own research. But I would set up the study protocols, lay out the study design, and work with the scientists and others to collect the data. So a lot of what I worked on the wildlife side, most of the money you'll find in research in mission statements like the Jones Center is in non-game. So non-game in habitat and other ecological research dollars are applied there. Unlike I believe it was Nilo that had the big Auburn quail project with Clay Sisson. That was a specific game bird project. We didn't do necessarily deer studies as it relates to deer and deer hunting and deer management, but you manipulate the habitat and it affects all species. So you measure that, and you can certainly extrapolate a lot of the data too. A lot of it had to do with small mammal interactions, predator-prey, looking at the difference between herbicide versus fire in a longleaf pine wiregrass ecosystem. So, really, is it everything in that ecosystem? And I do mean everything is designed to have a periodic fire come through. It doesn't sustain, it doesn't grow, it doesn't proliferate unless it has a fire come through. So more and more landowners are steering away from fire because of liability risk and the lack of knowing how to burn, and going to herbicide to control hardwood understory. And
so say that again. The ecosystem is designed. So what's the because obviously like a big wildfire wouldn't happen every year. Does it need to happen every 3 years or every 5 years? Or is there maybe that's one of the things they're researching is the time period? Yeah,
so evolutionary, history will tell you, in a landscape like that, they used to go from eastern Texas to western North Carolina. There was a dominant land type, longleaf pine wiregrass. And if you've ever ridden down 91 right there, you see a look at what that mature habitat would look like. It was designed, lightning strikes. Even Native Americans would do burns, and oak hammocks and creeks were natural fire breaks. And so they realized that the game would proliferate more if they had softer vegetation, newer vegetation. Your muscadine vines, they'll grow up. Fruit's way up here. It's out of the game's reach. So if they burned, everything started over. It's less woody browse, more palatable stuff. So, deer, quail, small mammals, they all need a diversity, a patchwork of different ages of habitat, because each age creates a different set of species of weeds, trees, grasses, etc.
So even the Native Americans did burning.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
It's the easiest way to clear land.
Oh yeah, well, yes it is. Yeah. especially if it's not very controlled.
Very true.
Very true.
Yeah.
How interesting. So I can't remember if it was you or we're talking about somebody's research project on the shoal bass. They're preserving some of the mussels that are here, and the mussels actually move. I guess it's a relatively. I don't know if they're trying to save them or they're just researching the mussels, but they attach to the gills, I guess.
Yeah.
And
So
because-
that's actually our friend the shoalie. The shoal bass, part of the life cycle, reproductive life cycle of the shoal bass is dependent on a species of mussel that is threatened in the Flint River ecosystem and some of the tributary, the feeder creeks. And this really kind of came to my attention because there was a federal investigation south of Dougherty County, without giving too many details, about the release of warm, highly turbid or dirty water into a small run of a really nice, cold, clear creek that fed into the Flint, about 100 yards down. And in that 100 yards, there were some protected mussel species. So this mussel species, and I forget the name of it, it produces a long slime trail, and it puts its egg sac on the end of that. And in the current, it looks like a minnow. Shoal bass comes along and hails it. Of course, everything goes through their gills, and the polyps from these mussels stick to the gills of the shoal bass. And as they mature, they fall off onto the riverbed, and they take hold and grow. So proliferate the life cycle of the mussel.
That's awesome.
Actually, fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
The mussels are fishing.
So
That'd be an awesome fly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that looks like.
take a bear hook.
Forget Helgramites.
Forget Pokemites. This is exactly what we got the new Superfly.
Zoom's coming out with one. They're gonna have the mussel snot fluke.
It's actually really hard to get on the hook.
Yeah,
It
really.
is.
Hard to cast.
Yeah. Deadly though.
Backcasting.
Yeah, that's a special place down there. If you ever get a chance to go to one of their open houses, highly recommend it. It's if there are places on that property where I've been deafened by silence.
Yeah. Well, it's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is it, 30,
Yeah.
40,000 acres?
I
Something
want to say
like that?
39,000 contiguous acres.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's got to be most of, or at least a large percentage of that county.
It's a big chunk. It's from what I understand, it's the last. It's the largest vestigial contiguous acreage of longleaf pine wiregrass ecosystem in the southeast. There's some big plantations, but they don't all have the old growth longleaf / wiregrass ecosystems. Maybe old field that's converted. It's maybe newer growth, but still has a plantation cut to it. So
That's Baker County.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Baker. The only county in Georgia in which there's no railroad running through it, because that's the way they wanted it.
And they got it.
Cross the rivers, cross the waters. So Mitchell Baker or Mitchell County, Baker County. There's a little competition there where I grew up. So they were across the waters. We were across the waters. So.
Well, that way no one in Baker County is from the wrong side of the tracks.
That's right. Yeah. That's how you fix that.
The research station, and we can move on in a second. Do they have like certain things that you have to come and do, or do scientists come in there? Because I think I've been told different ways that pretty much anybody can come in. Do they have to be approved? How does that? Or do they sort of have, okay, this is what we're focusing on, and y'all can do projects that relate to this? Or
Yeah, everything, they have a whole host of PhDs that are employed there that oversee the core projects, and they manage master's level students and other PhD candidates that are executing their research projects on that property. Helping to oversee it, co-author it, et cetera, working with a lot of the universities throughout the world. And then there are also visiting scientists that come in from all areas of the world that need a place to do their research or they want to study a certain aspect of the property. And if the mission of the study fits with the mission of the Jones Center and its desire to do research in that area, you're not going to see, something on deer antler growth done there. It just doesn't make any sense. But, if you manage, interestingly enough, all these folks manage, quail plantations, and let's shoot every hawk we see. Let's kill all the snakes, and snakes do a lot of predation. Hawks more so your Coopers and sharp-shinned that are smaller, more agile, but seasonal, versus your red-tailed hawks, which are eating more small mammals, squirrels, cotton rats, etc. Interestingly enough, what you'll find is crows and blue jays are some of the most prolific nest predators you'll find. That and fire ants.
How interesting. Fire ants I knew, because they're not. Now, fire ants aren't indigenous, right? They came up from South America, or did I make that up? I may have made
No, I think it's partially made up, but yeah, I don't think they're indigenous here.
Yeah. I think they were. I think they've moved into these areas, and I think they're continuing to move.
I think I saw a B movie in like the 60s about that. It's very scary.
There's some movement in that movie. Awesome. All right. So, cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah, salute.
You don't have much Skywire left there.
You're gonna have to switch.
Well, we didn't have any. I'll have to get a.
You'll have to
I'll
switch.
have a berry. Like in a second.
While we're on this commercial break, I'm gonna,
Since somebody put a berry in front of me, let's see if
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
see if I can make it explode.
That one had an issue getting over here.
Yeah, it did.
gravity was not its friend.
That's a testament to how balanced that beer is, that it didn't blow up.
I like the fact that you can pour it over the top of remaining sky water and it still keeps its character.
I drank it all. Actually, we can go back and look at the video. I might not have drank it all.
Somewhere a brewmeister's cringing.
I know.
You just
Luckily, he doesn't have to rate it on the app.
Thank God everybody pointed it out. So, I mean, most people just listen to it, so no one would have known.
they actually have to watch the whole podcast.
Yeah. You never know what'll happen.
So,
By the way, before we get off the beer topic, I want to say something. It's politically connected, but it's also completely part of my mission. So I recently went to a little get together at Commissioner Matt Fuller's house, and he's on the city side. He had a nice little soiree, and he offered me a cocktail, and I said, "Sure. What do you have?" He said, "I have a Ward 6." I said, "A Ward 6? You have a cocktail named after your ward? That's awesome." And it was a Prohibition era recipe. This is a good cocktail. If you're ever in Ward 6, I highly recommend you grab one. But I started thinking, I'm like, man, I got to do that too, but I don't want to be a copycat. So, I want to officially announce to the world that Sholey is the official beer of District 4.
I like how you did that.
y'all raised in District 4.
Yes.
That's right there.
Thank you. Thank you for the platform to do this.
I'll have a District 4.
Just remember that when new releases coming up.
Oh, that's beautiful. I know. Well, some of the funnest things we've done have been namings. So
Yeah.
And I would tell you how long we have spent talking about it, and then come back to either something we hadn't thought about at all, or like the very first thing. I can't. We probably had 100 names for the IPA, and Eric was like, Sholey. I think somebody went,
Oh man, nobody will drink anything.
nobody will drink anything named Sholey.
Tastes like fish line.
Like a fish. Yeah. But it's funny. I mean, after a while, things take on character, and then in your mind, it takes on, that character, and next thing you know, that's what it is. There's like a reality to naming something. You name it, and then it becomes that which it is named. So
Yeah, I like it.
that's very prophetic.
Not naming your kid Trip.
I know. He's not going to be a ballerina. That's a good way to get a football player right there. That
Very
guy
true.
can't chew gum and run. It's just disheartening. Cheers.
You can sit on a stool and do vascular surgery all day.
Vascular surgery. Yeah. No more of that today, hopefully. Where did awesome to have your phone go off during the middle of the podcast. Well, speaking of medicine, so Privia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's what I do every day.
It's a very, it's a cool organization. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so my day job is Director of Physician Development for Privia Health. I'm here to help support Privia Medical Group of Georgia to help grow a network of independent physicians and practices throughout the state of Georgia.
Mm-hmm. And so, what does that mean? I mean, for people other than me and Eric, what does that mean? So y'all provide, do y'all provide money? I mean, or do you provide contracting, or do you provide computers?
Great question. That I get paid to explain that on a daily basis. At its core, it's technology and population health. That's what drives decision making and operational efficiency within a practice. At the end of the day, small practices, independent practices have to be part of something larger than themselves. So we offer the opportunity to come together in the right way and be a part in the right way, so that you don't lose your independence or autonomy as a private practice, as an independent physician, because you're in that position for a reason. It's a calling. It's a purposeful decision, and give that platform the opportunity to be rewarded for the value that they create in the marketplace, because the payment model's shifting, and they're losing leverage. Their costs are going up. Ideally, it's become part of something larger than yourself. Usually ends up meaning selling out, joining another practice, or retiring before you really feel that you're ready to give it up.
Yeah. Just
because you're tired of all the BS.
Mm-hmm. So putting those. So I guess the next question is, how has that been? Are you just in South Georgia, or how big is your territory?
Yeah, so I'm responsible from Columbus to Savannah. We are a statewide physician network, so single tax ID throughout the entire state of Georgia. We have a sister group in the Mid-Atlantic, which is D.C., Maryland, Virginia. We have two sister groups in Texas, one in Dallas-Fort Worth area, one in Houston, Gulf Coast. So, we are one of 4 independent markets and growing, and really expanding. By the end of this year, we'll be over 300 providers strong just in Georgia, and that's over the last 3 years.
Now, do you use that 300 providers to go out and wrangle contracting for rates and things like that?
It certainly helps. Payers will tell you nowadays, when you go to them and you say, hey, we're a physician group, a physician network, an IPA, a PHO, et cetera, we want to jam you for rates. And the way to get leverage is to get bigger. Hey, we have control of this many physicians who have this many lives, patient lives. Show us the money. So that's all about cost, and that's just a fee schedule battle, right? And payers will tell you, don't come to me and tell me you're another worthless IPA. Don't come to me and tell me you're a regional aggregation of physicians, because that doesn't solve my problem. My problem as an insurance company is I've got all of my customers wanting to buy a product for less money, a lower premium. It's costing too much. How can you reduce costs? How can you return quality back to the care you provide, and do it within this network? Anthem in Georgia manages over 2,200 fee schedules. So that's a lot of operational cost. So how could a narrow network solution be presented to them by a statewide network of independent practices? So it's part of a solution to the payers, and largely to employers, because about 11% of employers next year will shift to a self-insured model. And, if you think about employers, they have to manage that cost like they do anything else. Their raw materials, their production costs, their labor costs, and that insurance is baked into labor cost. And when your premiums go up and the insurance company says, hey, we got to raise your premiums, $200 a life, the company either says, well, we'll eat that, we'll share that and raise everybody else's premium $100, or we'll pass all of that on to employees, or they start making internal decisions as to, well, we know we have this much budgeted for labor. Can we cut some back and still provide the resources and benefits we have been? Or, when we look at our production costs, if our production costs are, a smidge higher here because of healthcare costs, we can't get access to cheaper care. Is it, this is a business decision and it's a tough one, but can we move production to another facility? Or if it is more profitable for us because of, competition, et cetera, in the area, can we reduce our production costs and grow production? That grows jobs, it grows the tax base, it grows revenue, and it creates a positive trajectory in a region.
So I know just from a personal point of view, when I got here, we were about 70% private practice. The region was probably 10, 11 years ago, and now it's about probably less than 30%, maybe 35%, somewhere around there, of the physicians and most of the other physicians are employed. How does that, number one, I guess, how does that affect how you're able to proceed? Do y'all do large contracts with hospitals, or I guess with your mission, it makes it harder?
Well, yeah, our value prop to the payers is to be a high performing network of independent, largely primary care practices. About 70% of our density in our base will be, peds, family practice, internal med, OBGYN. The remaining percentage will be specialists, both clinical specialists and proceduralists. Not every market can sustain, specialists if they don't have a referral base. So, we are hospital agnostic. We're a network of physicians agnostic to, hospital leadership and direction, really putting physicians back in control of healthcare in their markets, but also helping to keep the doctor-patient relationship at the center of the delivery system.
Yeah, but really, y'all are, I'll say this as a private practice team, y'all are competitive with the large number of hospitals that employ a large number of physicians, because one of the reasons for employing a large number of private practice is so that they get admitted and then immediately get admitted to the hospital. And so what I see as an independent is that that maybe things that could be handled on an outpatient basis aren't handled on an outpatient basis because there's an incentive for the employed physician to just say, okay, just go to the emergency room, or okay, I'm going to call the hospitalist and get you admitted. And so it seems to me that that if there was an incentive not to have that happen, it would be both cost savings as well as could be beneficial when you look at infectious disease and some of the other bad things that happen in hospitals. You agree or disagree?
I agree. Circle gets a square. I would say yes, but I think more than anything, it's the opportunity for a physician to make the best decision for that patient on that case, regardless of the cost, but to have that patient's needs in mind. And if it's the highest cost access point that will generate the best result, then that's where that patient needs to go.
Excuse me, did you just make a Hollywood Squares reference?
I did. I'm old enough to know that.
Oh, I got it too. So,
and my point was not, it's not it's not physicians making, because everybody's super busy, and it's really hard in an environment where you're asked to see too many patients and you don't have enough help, and and that happens both in the employed model as well as in the private practice model. So
Sure.
it's not what I'm saying. I think the ease of access, and then there are created ways for patient flows, and when the patient flow is created a certain way, say it's an inpatient model from made it easy from outpatient, then we don't look as, and especially when there's an incentive for the large for the large hospital system, that's how they make money. And I understand that in a certain way it's business. So if you're thinking about it that way, then that. But what I like about Privia and that model is exactly what you said. It allows for the private practice physician to make a choice about whatever it is, whether it be, like you said, the highest cost part of that, or something as easy as calling and getting home health to give somebody IV fluids at home. So it allows for both of those things to happen.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
You pass a Sholey. I feel like I'm at work.
You drink at work, Eric?
No, I do not. Let me just qualify that statement. The conversation feels like I'm at work. But not that it's bad. I'm just gonna pour my Sholey.
Please feel free.
No, it's funny because people often ask me, you're in healthcare consulting, you've been in diagnostics and pharmaceuticals, and how'd you evolve to this? And I said, well, from a wildlife biologist perspective, I'm trained to deal with rats and snakes, so dealing with physicians on the sales side is
Awesome.
No.
I thought he was going to go natural selection.
Now, I have been called. I was vaccinated for rabies when I worked at the Jones Center because I did some work with bats, and I have been called to get a bat and a snake out of offices through my tenure. So
yeah, that's awesome. A bat and a snake.
Yeah, not at the same
simultaneously.
time. No.
Did you have to give them transient or?
No, absolutely. You can milk anything with nipples.
Took them to the site. Really, really smart.
Right there.
Are you looking at me in the eyes? That's awesome.
Podcast just got interesting again.
Yeah. So awesome. The Flint River Keepers are actually having their one of their annual meetings tonight, I guess in preparation for the Sholey and getting their stuff next week. And so that was a cool discussion. It's been about that time, so we'll call it a day.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming.
Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely. Do I get to finish the beer before I
Oh
leave?
yeah.
No doubt.